Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for tuning in. And those of you who are tuning in for the first time, a very special thank you. Um, One of the things you will notice, our new audience, and for the old, is that if you have an iPad, you can now consume CWS with an iPad. We are working on a mobile app so that those of you who are always on the move will not miss out on these shows. Um, if you're tuning in for the first time, let me take a moment to introduce you to what CWS is all about. Here we have conversations. I don't like the term interviews because it seems so rigid. Conversations with people about their journeys and how are they using their gifts and talents to help others. How are they making a positive contribution to humanity? With that, I am constantly looking for people who are doing extraordinary things or doing things extraordinarily well. Reason being is because I believe that each of us has a story to tell. And it's through those stories we're able to connect with each other and inspire and enlighten each other in some way. One of my friends, Karen Gray, tonight said something I found very interesting, and I told her I'm going to include this in my opening remarks. And she said, we should always go all out and hard whenever we are after something because we are mirrors of each other and thoughts and words are powerful. How very true. Think about what you're saying. Think before you say it. Words affect people in ways you couldn't possibly imagine. Words affect you. I'm going to take a little shift here tonight because something has been on my mind. Today I was browsing Facebook and I discovered that one of my good friends, Rose October Eden's mother, had the 90th birthday. Well, most of you will not know that Rose and I are we always talking about our mothers. I love my mother to that. And her mother turning 90 is a very special thing. I just love that woman. I love her smile. And I just love that glow that she has. And I was, indulging the photographs today. And I have to call Rose. I really have to call her. I guess she's, probably busy, enjoying the aftermath of the birthday. But happy birthday to you, moms. And I wish that you live to see many, many more. Congratulations. You look well. You look beautiful. So without much further ado, I want to say thank you for tuning in. I'll take a short break. And when I return, I'll introduce you to our guest for the evening, Miss Cori Robinson. We are back, and good evening once again. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. The lovely lady next to me is Cori Robinson. Cori, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to CWS.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Cori, I just want to read your bio a little bit, and then, we get started with the show. It is said that art imitates life. As a child, Baltimore native Cori Robinson watched the television series Fame and knew she was watching her future. At 17, she became the youngest performer to accompany the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra's annual live, gifted, and black program with narrative, classical style singing and a dramatic reading. She stormed the small screen in an appearance in the hit drama Homicide, Life on the Streets. Cori then headed to New York City. She faced her share of obstacles before landing her first big gig singing background for Gwen Stefani and Saturday Night Live. In addition to Homicide, Life on the Streets, Cori has appeared on Rescue Me, As the World Turns, and The Guiding Light. She can be seen in the films The Replacements, The Corner, All the Women I've Loved, and The Head of State. Her theater credits include roles in Redefinition, directed by star of 42 Chadwick Boseman. La Llorona with Opera Cultura, Dream Girls, Starlit Dreams, Hannah from Savannah, The Green-Tailed Mouse, Tomorrow, Love Child, Amen Corner, Bitter Apples, Circuit Breakers, The Gospel Truth, The Wiz, and For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. Cori, a classical, jazz, and musical theater trained singer, has performed with the Opera Ebony Company, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and the Metro Chamber Orchestra. She has also shared the stage with and/or provided live background vocals for a variety of artists such as Gwen Stefani, Bobby McFerrin, Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, Rachel Ferrell, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, The Roots, Pharaoh Monch, or Monch. Wow. Amazing.
It's funny hearing that back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I want to start by asking you, how did it feel at 17 to be the youngest performer to accompany the Baltimore Symphony?
It was an out-of-body experience because I was one of those weird children that, well, kids, I would say that every year when the season would start for the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, I would want to go and just sit and listen to the orchestra play. You know, most kids out in the street or going to the hottest parties or whatever, but I always got a kick out of going to hear the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra play. And then I was a part of a group called the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, and so that's on a whole nother thing with student government. And I became a student board member for the arts program at the Meyerhoff Symphony Hall, which is the home of where the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra is housed. And one of the chairpersons heard me speak and said, you know, you have a really good speaking voice. Do you do anything else? Because, again, I was heavily involved in student politics in school. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm president of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City. I served as a student commissioner on a Baltimore City school board, so I'm always speaking in public. And she says, you know, you should, think about being a part of this program. And I didn't really know what it was about. And then when I got a chance to meet David Lockington, who was the conductor of the night, and he heard me sing, he says, oh, you have such a strong voice to be so young. So he said, he basically gave me something to mimic. And that's how the whole thing started. So when I actually did my research, I was like, wow, this is amazing. You have like David Lockington, who's from London, you have the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, you have all of these other performers, and I'm like the only high school student that was there. And then I remember getting my little dressing room and have my name, and I have my mom and grandmom were in the box seats, and I come out and I'm just like, oh, I'm actually on the stage where I will actually sit and watch, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra play. And then there was also the same stage where when I was in the 4th grade, Bobby McFerrin came to perform. It was the first time I ever saw him live in concert. And he had people come up on the stage, and we were able to do some things like improv. And it was just like, so being on that stage was like a dream come true, even that young. So yeah, it was a great experience, yeah.
What drew you to the symphony orchestra? What do you think it is?
Instruments. As long as I can remember, my mom always played music in the house. And my mother never had just like one genre of music. And pretty much she was kind enough to let me have open reign to her albums. Yes, albums, not CDs,
right.
Albums. So, and I remember having anybody from Fleetwood Mac to Aretha Franklin to Puccini playing in the house at any given time. But it was always something about how different instruments made sounds that really drew me into the music. And in elementary school, I played clarinet, soprano sax, as well as keyboards. And so I'm not proficient, but I can still, out of the 3, saxophone is probably the better one for me.
Wow.
So when I got a chance to see this big orchestra make this like even sound of music with all these different instruments, it was just like mesmerizing to me. So every year when I knew that the season would start and I could get in to go and see, I would just be, leave school and go sit and just watch the orchestra play at like 14, 13, 17 years old. So yeah.
I'm going to take a leap in my questioning. How much would you say you have grown since then as an actress?
As an actress, oh wow. I think what really grew me up more than anything being in acting was living here in New York because I had training when I've been in doing dramatic art since I was in elementary school. When I was in elementary school, our school had a lot of after school activities for arts. We had dance programs, we had drama programs, music, arts. It was everything. And I always wanted to do plays and be on television and things like that. But when I came to New York, which was my primary focus, coming to New York was getting to acting. Singing kind of fell by accident, which gives me more of my money. But you know, I came and I studied with different actors. I worked with Malik Yoba as a teacher. Again, got to study under Chadwick Boseman, who again is, you know, the star of 42 that we all know now. And went to different schools like Stellar Adler, been to HB Studios. But it's the life experience here in New York that really gives you, you know, a lot of growth because you get to see actual characters on the street. You know, you get to see, and I mean, that's no joke. I mean, you get to see the homeless people, you get to see, unfortunately, the addicts. And then you get to see the everyday working person, and you kind of study, like, how do they move? Why do they get so frustrated? Why, you know, just little things, and then you take those things back. And as a performer, your job is always to be open and vulnerable, and to be able to take in what you adapt or what you decide to attract to yourself by studying these different elements. And so you have a little bit of technique, but you also have to have open mind to be able to take yourself to limits that you probably didn't know that you could take yourself to. You just have to be open. So,
How did you manage that? I know this is, you know, what is interesting about this show is that I'm very obedient to the flow, and you're taking me into some places. How did you at such a young age, manage that vulnerability? Because vulnerability seemed to be such a difficult place to get to when you're young, especially an adolescent or young adult, you know, trying to find your way, find yourself. Who am I? Who am I? You're constantly asking. But what do you think was the turning point or the trigger or the bridge that allowed you to accept vulnerability or become vulnerable? How was that?
ironically, I had the exact opposite happen. As a child, I think number one, I'm an only child. So I was one of those kids who had imaginary friends. All my dolls could talk and had feelings. So, so it was one of those types of things. But arts and entertainment was always just like everything to me because my mom was a singer and she was in dramatic arts as well in school, and she didn't really pursue her dreams, but she always instilled in me to just be yourself and do what you want to do. And so I was always that kid, again, in my room that wanted to have make-believe and pretend time, and then I would see things on television, and I'm like, oh, I can do that, or I want to try to do that. Well, how do they do that, you know? And then just trying to mimic what I saw, and then again, like my bio said, when the show Fame came on, it was my everything. It encompassed everything that I'm like, oh my God, I was acting and singing like these kids on television. Debbie Allen is amazing. And so, unfortunately, what happened to me, which happened to a lot of kids, is that you think you can, when you're a child, you think you can do everything. You know, there's nothing that can stop me. When I grow up, I want to be the president. Whatever you can imagine kids want to do. But then when life happens and you have people who tell you, oh, you can't do this, well, that's not realistic or whatever, and then it kind of seeps in and you're like, oh, maybe I can't. And then you just shrink, you know, more and more. And so I would say probably from my preteens going into my late teens, college years, I was kind of quiet because it was like I was always wanting to do things, and I was doing things quietly. Like I would get into the choir so that I could sing but not stand out. Or I would do dramatic arts, but I would want to just kind of be off to the side because, you know, I didn't want to stand out. But in elementary school, I was like, I'm the queen of everything, you know, put me the star of everything. But so one way I'm growing was I've humbled a lot. But but yeah, pretty much what happened for me was the opposite in life, where I had people telling me, well, what I couldn't do. So I just said, okay, well, maybe I'll just live my life doing what normal people do, what people consider normal things as far as jobs are concerned. And I would say about at the age of 19, turning 20, I was like, I can't live my life this way. I had left Atlanta, where I was going to college at the time, graduated from Morgan in Maryland. And when I graduated, I said, I want to live my life. So I came to New York at 22 with nowhere to live. So I lived at the YMCA for about 2 months on a wing and a prayer until I got kicked out because I couldn't afford it. And then I was living on the streets, crashing at my internship that later became a job. And then I moved back to the Y on 23rd Street. But basically it was like, you know what, I want to just live my life. So, I think what happened was, again, just being at home and knowing that this isn't it gave me my voice back.
You were 22.
22.
You came to New York.
Yeah.
No place to live.
Didn't know a soul, didn't have a place to live.
But you had the courage, because it takes a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would take an easy explanation and say desperation, but I say courage.
Yeah.
To go to the Y and you adapt. You
Mm-hmm.
adapted.
Yeah.
How important is that in your field,
Mm.
in your arena, to be able to adapt regardless of the circumstances, if you want it bad enough? How
If
important
you
is
want it bad enough, being able to adapt is like rule number 3, out of the top 5 or whatever. I would say outside of believing in yourself and knowing what you really want to do, because this is absolutely, the arts and entertainment field is absolutely career choice that is the most unpredictable. You don't have a steady paycheck. You don't have insurance. You're hot today and then you're cold tomorrow. Like, I remember being on tour and like riding high, coming back, and I had a month stint on a soap opera, and right after that it was like things had to stop for a minute. But I knew what I always wanted to do from childhood, and like I said, I kind of had that thing where people tell me what I couldn't do, but I knew that little voice in my head, and I knew what God told me that I could do. And so I said, you know what, my uncle from LA, who happened to do Broadway back in the 60s and 70s, Carl Bean. Hi, Uncle Carl. I told him on a Tuesday, I said, you know what, I just want to go. He said, what are you talking about? I said, Sunday, I'm leaving. Where are you going? I'm going to New York. To do what? And what are you talking about? And I said, I'm just ready to go. And he said, well, have you started looking for housing? I said, no. He says, well, if all else fails, you always have the Y on 135th Street. And he talked about experience there. So that's what happened. But I tell anybody, if you want anything bad enough, I don't care what it is you want to do, you have to be open to adapt to your surroundings. Even if you want to be a lawyer, you're not going to be able to party like you used to. I have a lot of friends who are attorneys who they had to study for the bar and all these other things, and friends who are doctors who had to write their dissertation, and it's like they had no life at all, but they had to adapt to that lifestyle in order to obtain that goal. Same thing with performing. Again, you just never know what's going to come down the pike, and you have to be ready for anything that comes.
One last question on this particular vein.
Yeah.
I just have to ask it. Why do you believe that that voice in your head was much stronger than the voices that were telling you can't or you shouldn't?
Well, I don't want to get super spiritual, but...
No, but get super spiritual. Why not?
But I attribute it all to God because, like I said, I've been told by the closest people to me, you can't sing, or that's not a real job, or, that's not realistic. And I try to live my life according to the way they wanted me to live it, and saying, yeah, well, maybe this is a pipe dream, blah, 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 blah. But when it gets to a point when it's in your spirit where you can't sleep because you feel there's something that you need to be doing, there's something more that you need to be giving to this world, where there's something that is innately a part of who you are, then it's like that little voice inside is louder than all of the voices you like manually have heard your entire life or the last month or last week or whatever. And so it just got to a point where I was like, I couldn't sleep. You know, I wasn't comfortable in my own home. I wasn't comfortable in my own hometown. And I was like, I don't know what's on the other side of this street that I'm about to cross, but I know I have to cross this street. And being here as long as I've been here, the one thing I will honestly say without a shadow of a doubt, I've had my hard times for sure, but God has never failed me.
I like that.
Never failed me. I've never fallen. Have I stumbled? Absolutely, but I've never fallen.
You know, I want to ask you two questions you seem to have answered already, but I'm going to ask them to you directly. One, what was it like growing up in Baltimore, as quick as possible? And two, when did you first realize you wanted to be an actress and singer?
Growing up in Baltimore, Baltimore has a lot of great characteristics, a lot of culture. You know, we think about the movie Roots, and that's where Kunta Kinte docked and all this good stuff in Maryland. But it's definitely a generational town. And I say generational meaning a lot of times we grow up, we may get a blue-collar job, go to school maybe, and then we have families, and then we just repeat a lot of the same cycles. And I just knew as a child, I don't know why I knew it, but I just knew as a child I was meant to do something outside of Baltimore. And I hadn't even traveled. I didn't leave Baltimore until fourth grade for the first time when I actually came to New York on a trip where I won a contest. And that's how I got to come to New York. I was like, oh, I'm coming there. But, you know, Baltimore is a very family-oriented town. I will say that for sure. But definitely it's one of those things where a lot of things just continuously repeat themselves generation after generation. And I knew I wanted to break certain cycles. As far as performing, like I said, I don't know what it's like. I don't remember not performing. I would say that. You know, my grandmom has a daycare center at her in Baltimore. So we did performing arts at the daycare center. When I was in elementary school, my very first dance recital, I was picked out of a class because at the time, I was the tallest girl. And they needed a kindergartner, boy and a girl, to partner with these other kids that were in the fourth and fifth grade. We had kids all from all of the grades. And that was my first dance recital. And then I got into my first play. So it's like, I don't remember not performing. I'll put it that way. So I just knew this is what I was meant to do.
Who would you say has had the greatest influence on you as a performer and as a woman?
I attribute 100% my love for performing and music to my mom. Like I said, there was never a day that there was not music playing in our home. I don't care. We woke up to music, we cleaned to music, we went to sleep to music. Whatever it was always music. And then looking at old pictures of her from high school and the seeing, like, my mom was just this beautiful woman who could sing, and she was always in everything. And so I knew I wanted to follow in her footsteps and take it beyond what she didn't do because, fortunately, I came about. But you know, and then and I draw a lot of my womanly strength from my grandmother. My grandma and I are very close. She was very instrumental in raising me. She was an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, my grandfather left her with 3 kids by the time she was 20. But she managed to pull herself up by her bootstraps, never going on welfare, single mom with 3 kids, working 2 jobs. And now she's like I said, she's owns 2 different businesses. And, you know, but she always instilled in me, make sure you have your own. Never depend on others for anything. Yes, you always ask for help if you need it, but always be able to maintain your own way, no matter what.
So you have a lot of strong women in your life, black women, to reference as beacons too. Outside the genealogy, outside that line, who are some strong black women or women that you admire?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Give us 3.
3. Overall, Oprah is one. It's too many singers to name, but I will say I'm gonna mention a singer that probably nobody knows who was the biggest influence on me out of all of the ones that you typically would know. Her name, she's a South African singer by the name of Letta Mbulu.
What's her name?
Letta Mbulu.
Letta Mbulu.
A lot of people know who Miriam Makeba is, and I love Miriam, but Letta had this, because I have a 5-octave range, and Letta had this way of going from her deepest alto or contralto voice up to her whistle tones, which singers know that's like one of the highest of soprano voice you can get to. And she, every time I heard her sing, it just moved something in me. But of course, you have your...
How adventurous are you?
How adventurous am I?
Yes.
I'm extremely spontaneous.
You are?
I moved to New York without...
Give us a glimpse of Letta.
A glimpse of Letta?
Vocally.
Oh, Lord.
Or doing it your way.
My amor, mamani, oh melela, ay amor, mamani, oh melela. That is one of my absolute favorites. That every time I hear that song by Letta, I don't care where I hear it, when I hear it, I always start bawling. I don't know why, but yeah. And she's done a lot of stuff with Hugh Masekela.
Leave her name for me because I always play a lot of African music on the shows.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, I do.
Her stuff is kind of hard to find, but because it's been out of print. But you can YouTube some stuff. Amazon has a lot of her stuff. The 77 release of Letta, which is the second self-titled album she had. Quincy Jones produced that along with her husband Kefis and Mana. So yeah.
Wow.
She's dope.
Oh, you singing tonight?
Call me off guard.
What do you remember about landing your first major role in New York?
Man, okay, let me tell you. So again, I came to New York primarily to get into acting, and I had done some stage theater or whatever. And I did this musical theater piece. And a friend of mine who's a dancer, who's danced with a lot of celebrities, she told me about an audition for Pink. Mm-hmm. But she thought she went on the wrong day. She thought she was going for her dancer's audition. So she called me. I was taking a nap. And she's, Cori, you got to go to this audition. Pink is hiring background singers. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to make it. And again, I'm in my bed. I turn over, and that sinking feeling I had in my spirit again told me, get up. And I just shot up, and I went to this audition. So I figured I got there. There was 1 million people there. Got to meet Pink. Didn't get the gig. About a month later, the company that had the auditions for her called me and said, hey, are you available next Saturday to sing backgrounds for Gwen Stefani? I was like, what? I was like, who is this? What is this? Who is this? What are you talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. This is such and such from the company. And we remember you from the audition that you did with Pink about a month ago. So would you be available to do background vocals? I'm like, yeah. Well, what's it for? Oh, it's for Saturday Night Live. And I'm sitting in my house freaking out like, okay, yeah, this is not real. But okay, fine. And then when that Thursday came where we had rehearsal, which was the first day I went on set. So growing up watching Saturday Night Live, that was like, a feat in itself that I'm here on the sound stage where they taped this historic show. But then I get to work with this pop icon. It's like, this is crazy. So I just remember and she was the sweetest person in the world. And I remember the band was rehearsing before they brought the background singers up. And when she was done, she just jumped off the stage. And she's like, hey, how you guys doing? So this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just standing there like, she's talking to us like regular everyday people. But it was one of the best memories I'll ever have, getting to work with her and then the after parties and just being treated like, a celebrity. I had a car come and get me the day of the show and people asking for my autograph, and I said, now tomorrow you won't know who I am. But that's fine. But it was cool.
Is there a particular role you were craving to play?
Oh wow. Not a particular role per se, but I look forward to attacking Broadway in straight theater. I know what musical theater is like, but I long to get back into like that straight theater, a very powerful role where I can really show the range of my emotions and things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Before we take a quick break, Patrick in the chat room said, "Good evening to you and your guests." Good evening, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick.
Let me ask you this one question before we take a quick break. How have you dealt with rejection in the industry over the years? Does it get easier?
Yeah, rejection is never an easy thing, especially when it's something that you really want. Because normally what I do is I audition and then I leave it at the door. I don't think about it. I tell anybody, once you do your audition, go in there. One thing Malik Yoba told us when we had class, you show up to an audition like it's your job. You go in there, you do your bit, and then you leave it at the door. Because if not, you'll be worrying like you're crazy all the time. So I don't think about it after I do the audition. But as far as rejection is concerned, it's just a part of the game. I feel like my place, God has a place for me. So if in fact I don't get this role, then there's something else that'll come down the pike. And I tell anybody, always be ready to take the opportunity. Whatever. Always be ready for the opportunity.
Let's take a quick break. We are back with the lovely Cori Robinson. Do you usually have fun on set, and which one you had the most fun on?
Oh wow! I think one of the more fun sets I've ever been on was when I worked on Guiding Light, because again, when you're doing like day player roles or you're doing under fives, which is like you're only doing like 5 lines, but you get to work with the actual characters. Especially for me, because I grew up with the show, and to see how warm these people were. It's like, because you come on, wow, that's such and such. I grew up watching him. And they'll just come and talk to you, and it's fine. And As the World Turns was fun too, but Guiding Light, they were much more family-like, and they were very inviting, and most of the stage plays I've done, especially when you're having those rehearsals where you're doing you're rehearsing for at least a month, like you develop not just rapport with your castmates, but you're dealing with family. Like I just wrapped a play called Circuit Breakers by director and writer Arthur French, and he brought these cast members together at the last minute, but we just developed such a rapport with one another that we keep in contact and things like that. So that's the thing I enjoy the most about working on sets, where you actually develop friendships with people.
Talking about that, for young people who are trying to get into the industry, you came here on a whim. No place to go. You adapted. You went on you found different people to study, to understudy. All these things you did. Is there a map? Is there a compass? What would you say are some of the things that they should do?
I tell anybody, you just have to get out there. Nothing is going to come to you. When I lived at the Y at the time, one of the buildings in the area had a fire, and they displaced some of the people in those places into the Y. And a young lady took me under her wing, and she took me down to Boston Comedy Club down in the Village. And and then when she left the Y, because I guess everything was back fine with the building, that was the only thing that I knew. And I said, well, I don't really know the area outside of my place I was interning. And, you know, I got to know a lot of the comedians there, and some of these comedians have done things on BET, been in movies. One is on a television show right now on Centric. And they just like, you know, you're here all the time. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I don't know anything else. What are you here to do? And I just started talking to people. And, you know, they would tell me about auditions. And then I would go over to SOBs where Cori Robinson would do Soul Village every Wednesday night. Got to know some of the singers over there. People, word of mouth, like, oh, this young lady sings. So that's how I would do a lot of background vocals for other artists. But the main thing is I just had to get out. I just had to get out and, you know, one thing one of my mentors told me is that if you're going to try to seek some acting or modeling commercial agencies, do what's called round robins. You get a book, you can get the backstage, you can get Ross Reports. Well, Ross Reports is no longer available, but backstage, the booklet. And it has like all of casting agents, all of the casting directors, and take the time to find these addresses and just go drop your stuff off, whether it's your reel, your pictures, whatever. And sometimes they'll tell you, please don't show up. They just say that to you just to kind of deter like a multitude of people coming. What are you going to do? Tell you no? I just say, you just, whatever it is, you just got to get out there, be seen, and research. That's all I can tell you.
In the chat room, Patrick said, "You are so self-assured. Did you grow into your self-assuredness, or did you always have a sense that you were special?"
Thank you, Patrick. I always knew I was different. Mm-hmm. I don't know about special, but I did know I was different. And like I said, as a child, I thought I was like, yeah, I can do anything. Look at me. And then those quiet years of not being sure of myself was torturous to me because I just didn't know where my voice was. And I had to grow into, I'm okay. You know, I may not be like the next person, but what I have is special. That's why we're called individuals, because we all have our own unique thing to do. Mm-hmm. And so once I really started studying my craft and saying that this is what I want to do, how do I get better? And the more I did it, the more confident I became. And so, I had to rediscover my being self-assured, I'd say that, or being confident in who I am.
Karen G said, "Good conversation for aspiring actors, singers, performers to listen to." And Sandra asked, "Is there an actor you really want to work with?"
Oh, wow. Just one. I've always wanted to work with Angela Bassett. Oh. I got a chance to meet her at Christian Cultural Center one Sunday, but the range of emotion that this woman can evoke on a screen is like, you know. And Felicia Rashad, oh my God! If I could ever work with, I don't care if I'm just her. I don't care if I'm the string on her shirt. I'm just like, I just want to work with her because she's just like, she's so intense, but she's so warm at the same time. And I remember watching her on Oprah when they talked about Raisin in the Sun, and they showed that scene with her when she found out that her son had given away his share of the money that he got from his father's inheritance. And just what she gave in that little window of time, I think I rewound it like 20 times, just, you know, and just even just listening to her speak, it's like, you know. So yeah, those are the two top actresses that if I could have the opportunity to work with, it would be those two.
You're a classical, jazz, and musical theater trained singer, mm-hmm. and you've performed with the Opera Ebony yes. Company, mm-hmm. the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and the Metro Chamber Orchestra. Mm-hmm. How would you describe your relationship to the various styles of singing? When I speak about classical singing, it's truly a blessing to me, and I say that because a lot of people start very young. Mm-hmm. I always knew I had a big voice, but I didn't know that I never imagined that I could sing opera until I was in my freshman year of college. Because again, what I did with David Lockington with the Young Live Gifted in Black, again, it was a lot of mimicking, and he curtailed a lot of the singing based upon what my voice could do as well as what was going on with the orchestra. But I met Johnny Patton, who played the father
in Suge's father in Color Purple, the minister. He was a teacher at Clark Atlanta University, which was my first college. And I studied under him, and he said, "You have an amazing voice. So you sing classical music?" And I'm like, "No." And he was the first person to teach me about repertoire in different languages. So my very first piece was in Italian. And then when I came to New York and studied even more under Jeremiah Abia, I learned more about Italian, German, and some French. And so to me, it was just a blessing that I knew that this was a gift that God had given me, because again, I hadn't studied it, but to be able to sing it and be requested and get paid to do it was like, wow. Jazz has always been, it's very special to me because I grew up listening to it, and like all of the singers from Billie Holiday to my favorite of all is Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and just learning about improvisations from them, scatting. Even Al Jarreau, who's people underestimate like Al Jarreau and like Bobby McFerrin's singing voices. Like, you know, we always know about Bobby and his like doing his improv with doing instruments, you know, through the body, but just listening to his skill singing is just amazing. So these are people that I looked at and said that, you know, the freedom of jazz, being able to improv but still have the technique to keep the breath going on a sustained note. I know it's like, what is she talking about? But it's like, you know, it's just the freedom of being able to sing jazz was just amazing to me.
Talking about freedom in music, among the three, Italian, German, and French, which you find most allow you the most freedom, and which one you find most disciplined?
Italian, I would say, is the hardest because you have to really know where to place your accents, your consonants, being able to enunciate. It's a lot, but I have a strong affinity towards it because of the passion behind singing in Italian.
Example.
Really?
Yes. Give us an example.
Oh mio bambino caro, mi piace bello. I was not remembering.
That's Italian.
Yes, that's no, that's Italian.
German.
Angst, Gedanken mein wird ruhig sein. Lässt Liebesglut dich stehen die Weinen in kühler denn da schläfst du gut.
Wow.
I didn't warm up, people. It's his fault. Like,
Wow. What is it about singing opera that appeals to you?
what I love most about singing
Oh my
opera
God.
is the fact that I can be as loud as I want to be when I need to be, but still be able to bring it back. Because, like, you know, a lot of times, you know, you have to use more of your core diaphragm muscles to really get those sounds out. Because even just now, it's like it could have been much bigger and louder, but I don't know.
Much bigger than and
Oh
louder?
yeah. It's, you know, I didn't really open up as much as I could have, but it just, you know, to me it's such a big outlet, you know, because like you get to get this big booming sound out of your body, and just knowing for me that I can do it is even more of a release. Like I said, you know, with jazz, I get to sit more and relax in it a little bit more. But with opera, you have to be on your toes more. But it's like you get to just release in this big way. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions, like fast, like.
I know because
fast
I'm
answers.
long-winded, so we're gonna wrap.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. It's just that you're so multifaceted, and I want to give our audience a real multidimensional perspective of who you are, and so I want to ask these questions to bring that out. But let me ask you this: who are you listening to these days, just for the love of music and singing?
See, that's a hard one too. I love Lettucey. I love Layla Hathaway. Because again, we said three. I'm an old school baby, so I have a lot of old school stuff. But in today's, Rochelle Farrell. Jill Scott is another, so I know that's four, but those are my top four right now.
Voice training versus voice coaching. Is there a difference?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, training and coaching are pretty much around the same realm as opposed to getting lessons or being taught. Pretty much, it's just like, if you're a trainer, if you're about to do some marathon or something, you're going to brush up as far as like things it's going to sustain you. So when I know I'm about to go on an audition or whatever, like I'll go with my coach to just to make sure I'm warmed up well, or I'm singing in the right key, or that I can keep the pace with the music and keep the count with the music. But then there are times when I still take vocal lessons to this very day, because I'm always discovering new things about my voice. And I discovered, because I've, again, singing classical music for so long, I sing what we singers know as head and chest voice. But if I want to go out and do those R&B and even musical theater, you got to really know how to belt. That's a whole different dynamic. It's a whole different muscular mechanic that you have to use to do it. So it's like, that's why you don't have a lot of opera singers who go on and go make an R&B album and vice versa, because you're trained to use your muscles in a completely different way. So, yeah. And so for me, like I said, I worked very hard, and I'm still working very hard, so I can make sure I'm a well-rounded singer, and it's not easy.
You work. You really do work hard.
I do work.
I like that. What are some things in singing that might surprise the average person who never went to voice coaching?
I tell people all the time, there is a big difference between because the average person says they hear someone who has a pretty voice or a nice voice, oh, they can sing. And it's like, there's a difference between having a great voice and knowing how to use your instrument. And so that's why a lot of times, you have these singers, especially new age singers, who do all these shows, and they're so popular because they got all this auto tunes or all of these computers behind them, but you strip them of all of that and you give them a microphone. It's like, now what? Because everything is so, I like to say we live in what's called a microwave stage, where everything comes like right now. Like no one takes the time to cook anymore. You just pop it in the microwave. Same thing in the industry. And so it's like, it takes more than just saying, well, I have a nice voice and I can get up and get in front of a mic and sing. It's like, can you sustain your notes? Can you sustain your breath? If somebody calls out a key to you, can you pick that up right away? Is your ear trained? Even if you've never read music, is your ear trained enough to hear something and be able to, give that pitch right back? And also, again, it's like, there's a difference between using your if you've ever seen sometimes these younger singers sing that hasn't really have any training, and all the veins are popping out of their neck and they're out of breath, it's because they're using all the wrong muscles. And that's why by the time they get a certain age, their voices are gone, because they have not properly trained to use their instruments. Like, I can pluck around on a piano, but can I sit and read the music and finesse it? Can I play it? So yeah, it's a big difference.
Patrick said, which artist, performer do you feel most paved the way for you to do what you do today?
I would say Minnie Riperton. was one.
Mm-hmm.
Galway going to Anita Baker. And I say that because again with the I have a 4.5 octave range, which is completely two different ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I a lot of times I wouldn't, because I think she was this ethereal singer to me. Like I can listen to Minnie Riperton all day. And then you had Anita Baker, who was this like had this depth to her voice. Like, wow, a woman can sing that low. Like I want to be able to do all of that. So I literally would take the time to study them both and figure out how they were able to make the sounds that they made. And then again, I had a chance to hear other singers like Letta, who could do what I'm talking about. She could take it from, her contralto all the way up to like first soprano without batting an eye. And I was like, so those were two of the top singers that really helped me with the mechanics of my voice. Yeah.
How would you describe Cori on stage versus Cori on a movie set?
Ooh. The beauty of acting is that you get to escape and be someone else. It's like, because I still get very nervous if you put me in front of a microphone to sing. I still get stage fright.
Gotta be kidding.
But the interesting thing is, I get stage fright when I'm acting or doing a film. However, I think what helps me more is knowing that it's not me. It's me playing this character. Mm. But when you're doing a show where you're singing, it's all Cori. It's all whoever that singer is in front of that microphone. All eyes are deadlocked on that person. And you talk about having to be vulnerable. It's a lot. You can always tell the singers that people gravitate towards the most is because they just want to sing and be mechanical about it. And then there are those who give when they're on stage. And so that's what I had to learn how to do because I was so afraid for a long time. And when I was able to finally just let go of those walls and I said, oh, people like me for me. It's okay, But so, yeah, that's the difference. Singing, it's all me. There's nothing to hide behind. Acting, I get to play make-believe.
So is that is giving a part of yourself, or is giving something that you discovered about yourself in the pursuit of your career, that you're a giver? Is that one of the things you've discovered about yourself? Mm-hmm.
I've always, prided myself on wanting to help and to give. But for a very long time, I got very caught up in being afraid to sing because, again, I was told I couldn't sing or can I really handle this or whatever. And the very first solo performance I did in New York was at, it was a monthly show. I used to be a showcase I was a part of called Love Jones NYC. And we did a show at Gospel Uptown in Harlem. And I did Open My Heart by Yolanda Adams. And, so when it was all over, people came, shook my hand. Oh, you did a great job. People I knew, like, oh, Cori did great. But what really got me more than anything was a waitress came to me and she took my hand and she was crying. And she said to me, thank you, sister. I needed that. And I was like, okay. She said, no, you don't understand. That's one of my favorite songs. But the way you sang it, it just touched my spirit. And I just needed that. And, keep doing what you're doing. And, thank you. And that was the moment that I realized this is not about me. Mm-hmm. Of course, I want to sing and be able to express myself. But it was in that moment that I realized that God gave me something in order to give to others.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really do like that. It's not about me. And, a messenger always comes.
Mm-hmm.
Always comes. What still surprises you about yourself on stage?
I think what surprises me is that the more I do it, the more open I get, because I'm, people who truly know me know I can be a bit silly at times, but I try to curtail that because I don't want to come off too weird. But I think when I'm on the stage and just feel at home, I think the more I do it and the more I realize people just enjoy me for being myself. And it just makes me want to open up even more and more and more.
Were you nervous or scared the first time you went on stage?
As a child, absolutely not. As
No?
a child, I couldn't wait because, again, as a child, I had a lot of older friends, or it was kids that were older than me that I wanted to be like, or I want to do what they're doing, so it was my turn, like, yeah, it's my turn. But once I became, a little older, and when those voices had gotten into my head, unfortunately, I remember being in the 8th grade playing in the jazz band, but my band leader heard me sing and by myself one time in a piano room. We had a piano room for lessons at school. And he said, I didn't know you could sing like that. You're going to sing when we do our next performance. I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, yes, you are. You're going to sing what's going to be 60% of your grade. I'm like, I would tell my mom. Tell your mother, because I want her to know that you can sing. And I had to do One Moment in Time by Whitney Houston. And when I tell you, my right leg was shaking so bad. I thought I was going to collapse at any given moment. But I got through it, and it made me realize that I could do it, So, yeah, that was one of the most horrific times I had on stage.
How would you say the color of your skin? Because we're talking about the performing arts, and that's, how would you say the color of your skin has either helped you or limited you in any way?
I try not to get caught. I mean, of course, being an African-American woman, we always going to be subjected to something where stereotypes are concerned. But I try not to get caught up in that. If there's something that I don't agree with, I'm just not going to do it. But then there are times, too, we have to look at both sides of the gamut. And, some people will say, well, I wouldn't have taken this role. I wouldn't have done this thing because, it doesn't serve our purpose. But I said, but sometimes you have to be able to infiltrate the enemy's territory in order to get them to see what they need to see. Now, granted, I may not be able to change everybody's mind overnight, but, if I can get in and say, well, this is what I'm able to do, and yes, I'm a woman of color, it's okay. I've been, I remember going to an audition once, and my hair was actually blown straight. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to try to fit this type. And they were like, no, we have like 10 of you already. We're good. But then I go back with my hair like this, and it was like, oh, we need one of you. And I'm like, okay, interesting, but my thing is, it's like, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do it well. As long as I'm not being demeaned or degraded, it may not be comfortable, but I feel like I need to take a stand somehow in order to let others continue to see that, yes, we're talented. We come in different shades. We come with different hair textures. We come with different sizes. No, we're not going to be all pencil thin or whatever, but just try to be open to the diversity of who we are as African Americans, as well as other quote unquote minorities. I hate that term minority. I really do. But, so I just, like I said, I have never had to endure being degraded or undermined because of my skin color. Being a woman, that's a different story. But like I said, I take pride just knowing that I can go into whatever I go into and say, I'm here to do my job.
What is the most memorable compliment a director has ever given to you?
Rob McCaskill, who was one of my acting coaches, who has taught different Broadway actors. He has a student now that's on Bold and the Beautiful in California. And I had a class with him one day, and we had taped the class. And then I was able to draw this emotion from I had to cry on cue. But once I got it, I ran with it, and he just stopped me. He said, "You were born to do this." And he's like, and to know Rob, he's like very like laid back, sweet guy, but he's nothing really. You don't really see him get like, he's just like, And so for him to stop me and say, "You were born to do this," I was just like, whoa, okay, thanks. Yeah.
With all the challenges in the industry, and I'm sure you've had your share. How do you pick yourself up when the going gets tough, when you fall and you don't feel like, you know, you don't feel like doing it anymore? But how do you pick yourself up and keep on going?
Again, I draw a lot of my strength. Well, I draw all of my strength from God, because, like I said, I had one of those days recently, actually. But you know, because again, nothing is ever certain. So you have those days where you're like, I don't know why I'm here. Can I really do this? But from a natural or manual standpoint, and I would recommend this to anybody, is you have to be mindful of your circle.
Yeah.
I am first of all, I have a small circle of people that I count on as friends, but they're good quality people who will give it to me straight if I'm not going in the right direction. One of my best friends, he just gave me a chewing out earlier today. But, you know, spirit-filled people, encouraging people. You know, I don't want anyone ever telling me, you know, you could do anything if they don't. Just be honest with me. And these are the people that I can say are very honest with me all the time. But always, too, as best as possible, because I know it's hard when you're going through it, but just try, no matter what, is to find the positivity out of whatever circumstance you're going through. Even in your darkest hour, just try to find a lesson in it, or try to find what positivity you can get out of it. And for me, that helps takes me on that trail to get back to being, okay, I'm going to be all right now.
What is one thing about Cori, about you, that most people do not know and would surprise them?
Oh, wow. That's interesting, because as aloof as I can be, I'm very open. So,
It's an interesting paradox.
Yeah, it's really strange. Like, most people, you know what it is? I feel bad about saying this, but I'm not the biggest people person.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this interesting is because no matter where I go, I always meet people and I have a great time with people, and I have, you know, but I'm very much a loner. So I'm an only child. So, you know, I thrive better when I'm just like kind of like moving rapidly on my own. But most people see me and say, oh, you know, she's really good with people, or she has a lot of friends, blah, blah, blah. You know, but I'm like, yeah.
What is gratifying about being Cori?
What is gratifying about being Cori? Wisdom. And I say that, and I say that in all confidence, because I know it's not me.
Right.
I know that my gift of wisdom is God given.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that friends come and talk to me about, family come and talk to me about, that I don't like to say advice, but I'll give insight on, or my opinion about, that I might not even have gone through. And I'm like, where did that come from? I'm like, okay, you know. Now, I don't always take my own advice, but I find myself at times having some profound things to say, but I know it's not of me. So
when you said that, I think about my friend Karen Gray, who said that today to me just before the show, and she instant messaged me. She said that we are mirrors of ourselves, of each other, and our words and thoughts are powerful. When you said that, I think I found a bridge between what you just said and what she said, and that is, we are given wisdom, or wisdom. The analogy I use is like ink in a pen, and I think of wisdom as this ink that sometimes selects a particular pen and say, okay, I'm going to pour through you now. Your only responsibility is to write, not for you to consume the ink. And I think that sort of explains why sometimes we are able to give advice, but we can't take it ourselves. And I think that's where the humility comes in that, and to not judge, in that you may listen to someone who's saying something very wise and something very informative and helpful, and you should accept it as coming from a source through them, not to say to them that, well, how come you're telling me this and you couldn't do such and such for yourself? So I think if we go back to the analogy, it's this ink, wisdom, that shows us a particular pen and say, I want you to write this, I want you to sing, I want you to do this, I want you to tell the world is. But it is not your job to consume the ink. It's to let it flow through you and give the message. And so I got to tell my friend Karen, thanks for that again. It's just fascinating how things come together.
Yeah.
We were just instant messaging each other, and she just something I think I was talking about the app for the show, and she says, "Wonderful, amazing, awesome, keep on doing it." And I said, "Thank you." And then she said this: "We are mirrors of each other, and our thoughts and our words are powerful. We must always be careful." So anyway, are you ever conflicted between being a singer and an actress?
Yeah, because both take a lot of work and concentration. And so, if you want to pursue, trying to pursue both as a career, like most people think like everything is under one umbrella. Oh, you could do it all. But like the amount of work that it takes to do both is a lot individually, because when you get into acting, it's like, okay, well, am I doing stage acting? Am I going to do movie acting? Am I going to do comedy? Am I going to do drama? Am I going to do, method acting? All of these different things. So it's like, then you have to start to build your work and your training around those things. And then you're going to have to go out and audition for those things and practice your craft in that way. So then on the other side, you have singing. It's like, okay, well, what type of singing do I want to do? Am I going to be a recording artist? Am I going to be a background artist? Do I want to sing live only? And what type of music do I want to sing? Where do I want to fit into this arena now in this industry? Do I want to be famous? Do I want to just want to work to keep, do I want to sing just to work? And so it's like, then you have to go out and try to find work in that genre, and give a lot of your time and energy to pounding the pavement, because there's not a lot of agencies for singers. A lot of stuff we get through word of mouth if you're going to do backgrounds or like, steady gigs just to keep you paid. As far as like getting a record deal, that's a whole nother dynamic altogether. So it's like these are two different dynamics with sub dynamics underneath of them that you have to figure out what do you want to do. So if you're going to try to bridge the gap, which is why I love musical theater, because it gives me an opportunity to do the two things that I love, that's a whole nother dynamic within itself, because it's like you have a lot of music you have to learn, as well as having to be able to memorize your line, and you have to get into character. It's
demanding.
It's very demanding. But again, if in fact anybody wants it bad enough, they will put in the time and the effort to do the work. Yeah.
Give us a glimpse into a day in the life of Cori Robinson. As a performer, running around, getting your stuff done. And then, as a woman, this very quiet, contemplative, pensive woman. Give us a day.
A day in the life of Cori is one that it's nonstop, because fortunately and unfortunately for me, I had to go back to 9 to 5 to kind of sustain a living, and which God willing won't be for much longer. But so for me, it's even harder because I was very fortunate to have a job where I could kind of like maneuver around auditions and performing, but then still I have to work. So it's like I have to sneak in time to go on audition. So literally you have to go in from work mode to audition mode and then back to work mode. And then after work, there may be rehearsals I may have, auditions I may have, classes I may have. So, I don't get the proper rest that I should. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. You have to find a balance because your health is first and foremost. Mm-hmm. But that's what my typical day is like, So it's like I'm working at 9 to 5. I'm performing from 5 to whenever. I did some studio work like
2 weeks ago where I was in the studio till like 2 in the morning after my 5 o'clock time, only to be back at work by 9. But again, it's something that, I want to do. So I've been like stocking money. So when I finally do leave the 9 to 5, I can go back to performing full time. And when I was performing full time, it's just audition, 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 audition. That's your job. For anybody who's not working a 9 to 5 and you want to perform, your job is to audition, practice, train, audition. Work, practice, train, audition.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's take a quick break, Cori.
Okay.
Said, suffer the little children to come unto me. Every day, more than 30,000 children around the world die of preventable diseases. More than 300,000 children are being used in war as child soldiers. Lord have mercy. A child should be loved. A child should be held. A child should be clean. A child shouldn't smell. A child shouldn't go to bed hungry at night. A child should be taught wrong from right. A child should learn to say
Cori, well, we are back, and the lady next to me, the lovely lady, is Cori Robinson. Cori's been giving us some impromptu vocals, beautiful. I really enjoy it. Cori, there's this quote of yours. I'm trying to remember it, but it says, "Believe in yourself and be willing to commit." Why is that so important to you?
Like I said, for me, being told, unfortunately, what I couldn't do, it could have brought me down. But like I said, I listened to that inner voice, and I was like, I have to believe that I can do it, no matter what anybody says. I don't care who it is. I have to believe in it. But then if I know that I want to be able to execute what I know that I have to put in the work to be the best that I can be. So I had to be committed to the belief that I had in myself. So not only, okay, you have a nice voice, but do I know how to use my instrument? Sure, I can read a script, but can I bring this character to life? So it's like, yeah.
What pushes you? Is it a thirst, a hunger, a passion, a desire to be successful? Or is it something else that is driving you? Maybe growing up in a home, seeing how talented, gifted your mom is. And do you think that is a contributing factor to you being so driven? If that's the case, is it a juxtaposition of the two? Having experienced your mom and developing that thirst and that hunger from childhood, and then now having tasted it, having felt what it is like, having experienced it, you have your own passion and your own thirst and your own hunger and your own desire to give to the world this gift that has been given to you. Do you think is it that combination of the two that drives you so much?
Yeah, I just, I think for me, again, it's just knowing that as long as I have belief in myself and God in my life, that the sky is beyond. There is no limit. There's no limit, I should say. And I've a blessing and a curse that I've had is that I've never known how to give up. I've never known how to give up. There are times I wish I could, and I just feel that feeling in my chest, as I said it before, is like, nope, you gotta keep going. I'm like, I'm tired. Gotta keep going. So I think for me, just knowing that there's so many opportunities out there, as long as I put my best foot forward, do the work, then there's nothing that's holding me back but me. So that's what keeps me going, knowing that I can have whatever I need or want as long as I do the work and keep going forward.
Looking back, what will you change about, if you had a chance to, about your education, your experiences? Would you change anything?
Education wise, I wish I'd have started certain things a little sooner. No, hindsight is 20/20 when you're older.
Yes.
Or my grandmother says, youth is wasted on the young. But knowing what I know now, if I could go back, I would have studied certain things a little earlier. But the trials and tribulations that took me to get to this point, first of all, I have such a great appreciation for who I am, and I had to fight to get to that point because, like I said, there was a long time where I didn't really believe in myself. Like I knew I wanted to do certain things, and I knew that I could, but I was still holding on to those voices. So I had to fight through those demons and fight myself. And so now that I have this great appreciation for myself, I wouldn't trade some of those trials I've been through because it brought me to this place of knowing about myself a little bit more, appreciating myself a little bit more, the wisdom that I've attained and the knowledge I've obtained. So, yeah.
What kind of music calms you down?
Ooh. I like, kind of like, I don't even know what you would call it, but just like soft jazz, but some of my favorite artists that calms me down, like Michael Franks, Sade, Michelle Ndegeocello has an album called Dance of the Infidel that's awesome.
What is it called?
Dance of the Infidel.
Dance of the Infidel.
And it's more of a jazz fusion style album. So it's like, but anything that's like flowing, I'm just like the soft and flowy, I'll be knocked out in a heartbeat.
When are you most happy?
When I'm singing.
When you hear the word happiness, what comes to mind right away?
Just the sense of peace and smiling beyond smiling, I don't know, and just being able to just relax in whatever moment you're in.
What is the strongest emotion you expressed recently?
I'm a as strong as I am.
Uh-huh.
I don't hide my emotion well, so I cry. I think.
What
it's
is
a
the
good thing.
fondest memory of your parents as a child?
Fondest memory. My favorite memories of my mom outside of singing, because my mom taught me how to harmonize as a child before I knew what harmony was. Because she was like, "You sing this part, and I'm gonna sing this part," and we would just But we every year when the American Music Awards and the Grammy Awards would come on, that was our thing. Like we would get our snacks and we would watch these award shows. It was an event for us. Like now in today's age, like there's an award show for everything, and it's not as grand. Like you don't see women dressing up in gowns and the guys in the suits and tuxes anymore. It's like it's just going to a show that's being televised. But that was an event for us. So that was my favorite thing with my mom. And with my dad, I think the things I remember most about my dad, I lost my father very early on, but one of my favorite things about my dad was just our talks. My dad never really talked to me like a little girl. Like, I mean, of course it wasn't anything vulgar or crazy, but, he spoke to me like as if I could, intelligently understand what he was saying. Like I could comprehend. I'm 6 years old and we're talking about life stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, Dad, and being able to like give back to him or give him some feedback. He's like, exactly, and that's what I want you to, So,
what stories your mother always tells about you?
My mother, she always talked about how I was a ham.
You was a what?
A ham. Or again, I always wanted to perform and was always like, I'm in the spotlight. I want to do it. So, yeah. And I was a talker as a child.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of outside of performing and some of the successes that I've had as a performer is being able to give back to some of the kids that I mentor. When I was living in Baltimore, it was a orphanage there where they had like kids who a foster home. And I remember this young little girl who had a dynamic voice, and all I could think about was if she just had some training, she'd be amazing. But I'm thinking, these kids are worried about being placed in a home that where she's going to get vocal lessons from. So when I lived in Baltimore, some friends of mine and I, who are other artists or whatever, we would get together, and every so often we would go by and check on the kids and want to mentor them, and I would help give vocal lessons with them, as well as just giving them an outlet if they needed to talk about things or whatever. And so when I moved here to New York, living at the Y, I would volunteer with the kids there as well. So, and then there was another program that I was a part of where, we mentored young women who were going into high school, preparing them for things that they were going to have to encounter as far as, imaging, they're about their image, boys, sex, or whatever, and then find out what do they want to do when college time comes, but also in nurturing them with their whatever gifts and talents that they had, and how to, trying to prepare them for that as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. I look forward to Sunday evenings to
sleep.
Okay.
It doesn't happen, but I do.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell the 15-year-old girl?
If I could go back in time and talk to 15-year-old Cori, I would just say, it's okay to be you. It's okay to live your life, not what your parents want you to do, not what your family wants you to do. It's okay to see a world bigger than what you know. It's okay. It's okay to leave the Maryland line and go to New York, go to Atlanta, go to Europe or wherever you want to go, see the world. It's okay. But it's okay to have your own voice.
A question I ask all my guests. What makes you laugh out loud?
What makes me laugh out loud? Just seeing people enjoy themselves. Like I love this. I enjoy watching other people enjoy themselves.
I like that.
Yeah. So I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day about a show that we like to watch, and I said, well, what's funny to me is not so much the comedy within the show; it's watching the actors trying not to laugh in the moment. Yeah. That's what makes me laugh even the more. So I just enjoy watching other people enjoying themselves.
I hope when I ask you after I ask you this question, you will laugh. And you won't be upset with me. But I would like you to sing for us, if you don't mind, some more of Letter and opera. Okay. Right?
Back to back? No,
well,
okay. I'm just playing.
Give us Letter first, and then, the three sets of opera, if you can.
She had a song that my mom loved called There's Music in the Air. And, it spoke, again, very...
Could you turn that mic to your...
Oh, sure. Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
So, stay put.
It's all right.
There's music in the air. It'll make your sorrow go. Let the music take you there, far from the world you know. I can feel it when I sing, then I'll know love. There's a joy in everything, well made for love. So that was Look for love in the music, lost in a melody, you'll find love. So that was, I just like the message of that song.
You like that?
And I'm like, voice cracking,
And opera, can you?
Okay.
Piffity chimpany chimbali, svioti neta, svioti neta, accio non dorma più, accio non dorma più. Svegliate mia ninnita, svegliate mia ninnita, accio non dorma più, accio non dorma più.
Wow, wow. Thank you.
You're
Thank you so very much. It was indeed an experience here tonight. Thank you. I mean, wow. There's no time like the right time. Timing is so very important. You made it here tonight, and so I want to thank you. You're now an official woman of CWS, so I'll be inviting you to come back sometime.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I enjoy this. I am lost for words. My friends are going to say I'm lying because, I'm very rarely lost for words. But at times like this when, I believe words can jaundice or contaminate an experience. So, but thank you. In the chat room, Sean P said, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, is there anything you want to say? Anybody you want to say hello to?
I just want to thank everyone who did tune in to watch, and I just want to say how honored I am again to be a part of Conversations with Selwyn. And to all of my family and friends who've helped me along the way and supported me. Big shout out to Archbishop Carl Bean. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in New York right now. So, Uncle Carl, I love you and I thank you, and just want to say thanks.
Good night. Tomorrow, we're having Graham Luck. So, tune in tomorrow evening. Graham is going to be talking about parenting a child with autism, seeing someone as a child with autism instead of just an autistic child. So, if you have the time, please tune in. And thank you, as Selwyn Collins saying. God bless. Until tomorrow. Good night. Somebody called watching said she could lullaby me to sleep. Just lovely. Yes. Wonderful. Good night.
You heard me. I said arrowhead. I love my golden arrowhead. Mama, oh, Gigi, my